You're listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Hi, I'm MEZ and I'm here with my co-host Ryan, and you're listening to Season 3 of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast, the podcast in which Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40K and I'm the noob trying to learn about the Warhammer universe. And as you guys can see now here for Season 3, we actually have visuals on our podcast, and this goes for both YouTube and Spotify. So now you can join us in our virtual studio. But yeah, let's get into it. So Ryan, what is today's topic?
Alright, Mez. As with the first episode of this season, you are just a little baby.
Okay.
You excited to be a baby again?
Yeah, I enjoyed it last time, actually, so bring it on.
Okay. So, like we said, in this episode, you are just a little baby boy. Again, metaphorical or theoretical baby, but, so you're still like you, but you're like a baby.
Yeah.
In this episode, the baby in question is more like you than in any of the rest of these, right?
Yeah.
Right? So it is basically you as a baby, right? It's like this kind of baby, right?
What you mean?
You'll see what I mean when I get there. That's exactly it.
I mean, I wish that was me as a baby. I wish that was me now. I mean, the face
I'm working on it. I'm getting there. I'm getting there bit by bit.
All right. So full-grown beard as a baby. Let's go.
Oh yeah, that's exactly. But also like twice as jacked, like as jacked as you are now, but as a baby, right?
All right.
Okay. So moving on swiftly. So as with last time, the year is about somewhere between 700 and 800 in the 30th millennia. Slaanesh has recently been born, the Eldar are still recoiling from their decimation, and the warp storms that ravage the galaxy have finally cleared up, so mankind is finally able to go out and do its nonsense.
Hey.
And on Terra, back in the cradle of humanity, the Emperor of Mankind has established the Imperial Man with the aid of his right and left-hand men, Malkador the Sigillite and Trajan Valoris. That's the wrong name. I just realised in my notes I wrote down the wrong name.
Oh, Ryan. Oh.
Trajan Valoris is the current leader of the Custodes. It was Constantin Valdor. My apologies. I need to correct that. I said that wrong in the first episode too. I know I did.
By the way, anyone who listens to this, go watch the thing right now, the visuals. Ryan's face when he said that, it just dropped.
Because it just occurred to me that I must, because of the way I've done these notes, I must have said it wrong in the first episode too. That's upsetting. Okay, so with the help of Malkador the Sigillite and Constantin Valdor, the right people.
Yep.
The leader of the who is the leader of the Custodes, by the way, right? Constantin Valdor was the leader of the Custodes at that point. Trajan Valoris is the current one. Yeah. Together, they scoured the earth of all those who would see the Imperium fall and unified humanity on its home world. But that is not where our story begins, Mez. Your story begins with you, little baby theoretical Mez, hurtling through space, being yeeted through space and possibly other dimensions, and crashing to ground on a random world.
Yes. Like last time, but yeah.
Exactly like last time.
Yeah.
And probably much like 15 of the episodes to follow.
Yes. Storytelling, let's go.
That's it.
Right.
But on this particular occasion, the world you land on is the world of Fenris.
Oh,
it's a hellish world of ice and fire. As you can see here. Now, this world is a special one, right? The planet's land masses constantly shift and change, and islands will rise from the ocean some years and then sink to the depth of the ocean the next.
Okay, so don't build a house there. Yes. got it.
Basically, yeah, there is almost no constant on this world other than a one continent called Asaheim, which is the primary habitable location on this world. But
Okay.
don't think for a second that just because Asaheim isn't going to fall into the ocean at any given moment, that it's safe, because it's fucking not.
Okay.
Right? Fenris's seasons are incredibly harsh, right? Fenris only orbits its sun every like 3 to 4 years by Terran standard. So a year on Fenris is about 3 or 4 years on Earth, right? What that
Okay.
means is that all the seasons last a really long time. And they're all hellish.
Okay.
So during the summer, the ridiculous amount of gigantic mountains on the planet, primarily most of them just start spewing lava everywhere. Because basically every one of the giant mountains that make up this planet's like geography are volcanoes. So in summer, the planet is like basically something out of like Korn's wet dream because it's just lava and volcanoes everywhere.
It's just hell.
Yeah.
It's
And
just...
it just gets worse because during the winter months, it basically just becomes a big snowball of a planet.
So when hell freezes to ice, lovely. All right. Yeah, okay. Tough situation.
Yeah, fun times, right?
I guess.
Right. Now, if the environment itself wasn't bad enough, the creatures of the world are equally unforgiving, right?
Oh, I could imagine.
They've all evolved to survive on that hellscape of a planet. So, if you go to the oceans, you'll find giant sea monsters like the Kraken.
Lovely.
Yeah, they're basically genuinely mythical sea monsters. Or if you go to the mountains, you'll find the fire and the ice drakes, which fly around because they're basically just fire and ice breathing dragons that murder everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just any other random place you might come across the Fenrisian wolves, which, by the way, are one of the most deadly predators in the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I want to give an honourable mention to the little-known Wrath Badger of Fenris.
Oh, the Wrath Badger. Coming from the Mechanic Badger, let's go.
There is basically no information about it, but apparently they're horrendous, and I fully believe that, given everything else I know about this hellscape of a world.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's
feisty
kind
little
of a
one.
nightmare. That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, just to summarize, this world is utterly opposed to human life. It is anathema to our survival. But humans are anything if not stubborn.
Yes.
So we did colonize this planet. I want you to understand that. We did colonize it. With great difficulty, but we did.
Okay.
Now, so humanity designates this particular world with an interesting title. And there are many worlds that share this title. Most of them are not inhabited by humans. There are a few. Fenris
Okay.
is classified by Imperial standards as a death world,
Okay.
which basically means survival is unlikely because the entire planet is designed to kill you. Now, there are some planets like Krieg, which we have talked about, which is a death world because it's a radioactive hellscape, and that was a man-made one. Humanity did that to the world. There are others like Katachan, which basically every human on the planet is Rambo, because if they weren't, they would be eaten by anything on the planet, including the plants.
Yep.
So, it's a variety of things make a world a death world, but this world is basically every kind of death world other than radioactive, packed into one big ball of ice.
Yeah, because if the environment is not trying to kill you, the animal who had adapted to that environment will kill you. Because, it's like everything. It's like Australia, man. It's like everything's just trying to kill you.
Australia, the world.
I really hope we
So-
have some Australian listeners who can correct us in this statement. But I
think-
mean, that's just an outsider's perspective, man.
I think like 20% of our listenership is actually from Australia. So yeah, someone's going to be annoyed. Or,
No. We love you guys.
feel like a deep resonance with this world. I don't know which.
I mean, I've just seen some spiders, and yeah, I don't want to go too deep into it. But hey, if you're from Australia, you're a tough one, yeah, and I
Oh, hell
respect
yeah.
it.
You're at the very least brave just to live
Yes.
there. All right. So upon arrival at this world, the incubation pod thing that you were being grown in hurled down to the planet, hitting the flank of a mountain and landing with an almighty crash and breaking open, revealing you to the world. Now,
Okay.
you may wonder, how does a little baby boy survive on this hell, like absolute hell of a planet? Would you like to guess how you survived?
I mean, there's multiple options because right now it sounds like the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, like Goku.
Well, that's true.
crashed into-
Were you found by a kindly old man?
Okay, let's not get into that. But I think the option why I'm surviving is because I'm special. And I think you're going to be talking a lot more about it. I have it in my genes.
Well, that is very true, but this isn't like the story of the lion. You didn't just figure it out as you went along. You had a little bit of help.
Okay.
Now, this was the first time that the weird proved to have a plan for you. While laying in the snow, likely waiting for death, you were found by a female Fenrisian wolf, a thunder wolf, I might add, one of the biggest, most dangerous predators in the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
But this female wolf, the she-wolf as they are actually referred, had just had 2 cubs of her own. And as we know with the Canis genus, which I don't know how up to date you are with your animal genetics, but creatures of the Canis genus tend towards protecting newborns, even if it's not their own, when they are in a kind of a mothering mindset. So this female wolf stumbled upon your little baby self in the snow and took you in. You were adopted by a gigantic wolf.
Can I just interrupt you? Why does this sound like Tarzan?
It's very Tarzan.
But just, with wolves instead of,
That's basically it. Yeah, it's Tarzan but with wolves.
It's fine. I like it.
So, from that moment on, you were raised by this wolf mother,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, alongside her cubs. The thing is, right, so there was a family of you. It wasn't just like the mother and the 2 cubs and then you. There was more than that. There was older wolves, like not older than her, but she had other babies. She was like what's the term? Term for a woman, like the woman being in charge, matriarch. She was like the matriarch, basically. But there was a bunch of wolves in this little clan that you had going on that were all your brothers and sisters.
Oh,
But primarily, that was it. You had a pack. Primarily, though, you had these 2 wolf brothers who were the youngest cubs, so they were closest to your age, called Freki and Geri. Or, yeah, I suppose that's how you pronounce it. Those names might sound familiar to you if I pronounce them at all correctly.
It does ring a bell. I was like, yeah, I've heard it before.
It's because those are the names of Odin's wolves.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I see.
Yeah. Right, now, you obviously learned to hunt and kind of fight with the family, right? Because you had to hunt to survive. And
Of course.
one day, your mother leads you to raid a place with a lot of food, right? This was a camp, a human camp. And its food stores, obviously, were packed with food. So, pack of wolves ransack the camp, steal their food. Unfortunately, humans had other ideas and fought back against your family. Now, you were like, well, fuck you guys, and started kicking human ass, because how dare they? And you managed to defend long enough to let your pack escape, and then you subsequently escaped as well, because humans are shit compared to gigantic wolves and you. Now, this was just any other day for you. This was just you and your family going hunting for the day's food, as you would typically do. Thing is, for the people in that camp, that wasn't any other day. And their king was not a fan of this situation. Right? Now, the king in question is Thingir, king of the Russ tribe. And you just raided one of the Russ's camps. This was something that had to stop. So, he sent a pack of hunters to take down the vicious wolf pack that keeps ransacking his stores. The hunters found your pack, attacked, and killed many of your brothers and sisters. And they killed your dear mother. Now, you obviously took the fight back to these hunters and basically started tearing them apart with your bare hands. Because, fuck those guys. How dare they? And in the process, you did manage to protect two of your brothers, which were Freki and Giri. Right? So, at some point during the fight, the weird proved it had plans for you again. And the king's men realized this monstrous wolf they were fighting was no wolf, but simply a boy. A monstrous, blood-soaked boy with the eyes and fangs of a wolf, but a boy nonetheless. So the hunters began to lower their weapons when they realized that you were just a guy. Feral one, but you were just a guy. And when they lowered their weapons, now, you didn't understand the stupid noises they were making at each other because, well, you're a wolf. If they growled at you, you might have got the idea, but fuck these guys. And their speech. But because they lowered their weapons, you realize the acts of kind of submission, of peace. And obviously stopped murdering them and stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And they managed to convince you to follow them, and they brought you before their king. Obviously, you took your brothers with you, because you're not going to leave them out in the snow. Fuck that. Yep. Also, you might need their help to murder a bunch of humans if they start to act up. Or at the very least, it would be a fun family activity. You know? Whether you need the help or not, that's a separate thing, but it's always fun, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, you end up standing in the long hall of this camp in front of the king, and the king obviously sees that you are this small or young child, but you're feral and an insane warrior. So he realizes, alright, there's potential here. We could do something with this. This could be useful. But might need to smooth the edges a little bit here. The whole being feral thing doesn't sit great with a king, usually. So he orders that a place be found for you within his household, and that you are to be raised as a Fenrisian warrior.
Okay.
So now that you're finally among your own kind, you learn their ways really quickly, because you're smart. You're going to learn stuff. So you learn to speak Fenrisian, you learn to fight with weapons rather than your bare hands, and you learn to hunt like the humans do. So, using boats to go out and get fish rather than just tearing animals apart with your bare hands. Stuff like that.
Lovely.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now, during a sparring match with the tribe's champion, you manage to disarm him of his axes and then help him to his feet and hand them back to him. Right? Now, I want you to understand, at this point, you're probably 12, and you've just kicked the champion, the toughest warrior they have. You've just kicked his ass, took his weapons off him, and then respectfully gave them back. Now, seeing this ridiculous demonstration of skill and respect, Thingir realizes the greatness that you are destined for. Because usually people on Fenris are, bloodthirsty warriors. So, even if someone came along that could kick the champion's ass, they usually wouldn't do the whole thing of disarming them and then handing their weapons back to them. Disarming someone's harder than defeating them. And then to hand the weapons back is a sign of respect that most people would not show. Usually they would just stand over them and boast that they kicked their ass. Yeah. So you really showed a different side to what usually is shown on Fenris, while showing an extreme of what the typical would be as well. So by this point, Thingir realizes you need a name. You deserve a true name, and thus he dubbed you Leman of the Russ.
Hehe.
So as you might realise, you, at this point, are the Primarch Leman Russ.
Leman Russ, let's go. One
Yeah.
of the good ones. Yeah.
What? Well, yes. One of the better ones, I might add.
Yeah. I do believe I rated him highly in the tier list last time, but
I believe you did. And if you look here, you can see him with the wolf. Or with his wolves.
Hey, yo, let's
Yeah,
go.
an absolute unit.
Hell yeah.
Now, moving on from this point, as you grew up to become this hulking brute of monstrosity, you obviously became far and away the most powerful warrior on Fenris because they're human and you are a demigod.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. So, you ended up like leading your tribe to many victories in combat because the tribes on this world are always constantly like warring with each other over land and stuff because the land's constantly shifting and becoming more or less viable with each passing day. Basically, battling for land is something that happens a lot, so it's really common to get into these little scuffles between tribes. But you just kept winning because now the Russ tribe had this guy at the head, so you were just kicking ass left, right, and center. And eventually, your tribe ended up being really famous, really well feared and respected in equal measure. And
that's what we like to hear.
Eventually, though, old King Fengir passed away. And to the people of Russ, there was only one very obvious answer as to who would be their new king. This guy.
This guy!
So, from that day, you were King Leman of the Russ. May you lead your people with pride and honor.
Will do.
You better. There's a lot of shit coming up. You better lead them with pride and honor.
I'll try.
So, as king, you were respected for your incredible prowess in combat, as well as your wisdom, and with time, people of all tribes would flock to you in your court to seek your advice and counsel. And within your kingdom, even the men and the wolves had an alliance, living side by side and fighting side by side. So, because you had like grown up with the wolves respected you. So, like, if someone tried to attack your camp, they weren't just fighting men, they were also fighting like entire packs of thunder wolves that were fighting alongside your men.
That's cool.
Yeah, so basically people on Fenris really, really easily picked up, maybe we just need to realize this guy's in charge now. Like, it doesn't matter what we do, even staying out of his way isn't a great option. So, since no army could stand against the armies of Russ, with enough time, the many fractured tribes of Fenris came to hold you as the one true king, the Wolf King. So, from that day on, you were the Wolf King. It's a cool title, to be fair.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which is actually funny because my last name in real life is actually, I do believe it means lone wolf. So that's actually fitting.
That's quite cool, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually fitting.
For the record, this is the episode I wanted to start this season with because I was like, if we're doing one of them, we have to start with a Viking Primarch.
Of course.
We had to.
I am Leman Russ, Ryan. Like, what don't you understand? My
I mean,
last name
you've got the same arms.
I have the same. Well, not quite. I don't know. I have the same genetics. My name means the same thing, and basically, I'm the Viking as well. Like,
that's
destined to be.
You just need to like. The thing is, he doesn't even like have like a proper Viking beard, so you could probably manage it. To be honest with you, you just need like the long ass Thor hair, and you're good.
Oh, I can do that. That.
I bet you could.
I also have a hammer. It's quite smaller than the one in the picture, though. But hey,
I mean that's an axe. So.
Oh wow! Oh yeah!
It's a double bearded axe.
I have a knife. I bought a knife. I continue.
All right. So a few years go by. You're in charge of your place. Everything's going well. And one day, while you are kind of holding court over a feast, some dude enters, right? This really random, unassuming guy in these really boring, plain robes with his hood up and looking a wee bit mysterious, comes in. Right? He enters your long hall and starts walking towards you. And as he approaches, the wolves in the room start to kind of like shrink away from him. And even like the soberer people in the room start to shrink away from this guy, like getting out of his way and stuff. And you're like,
Okay.
bit weird. So you're kind of keeping an eye on this guy, like, oh, shoot, a game random. And this man came before you and declared himself to be Emperor of all mankind. So you check him out and you're like, this is some random meek little dude. And you're the Wolf King. No danger you bending the knee to this fool.
No.
So realizing this stranger goes, all right, okay, what about you give me a contest for us, and I'll prove to you that I am the Emperor of mankind. So you're like, yeah, of course, this fool can fail whatever challenge he wants. So he's like, all right, you choose the challenge. And you don't want to waste food, so you're like, well, we're going to have an eating contest at this feast. So for the record, the stakes of these challenges that were issued, the man said that if he won the challenge, you would let him sit at your side during the feast. And if he lost, he would basically work for you for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal.
That's it. So, you have this eating contest, right? And the stranger ate far more than any man in attendance, with ease. And then he looks at you and sees you've already devoured 3 full animals to yourself. The animal in question was an auroch, or 3 aurochs, I guess. They're large horned animals, by the way. You ate 3 of them on your own in the time that it took this man to out-eat every other man in the building. So, the stranger had lost the first challenge. And you were finding it amusing that this guy was coming in and failing these challenges. So you were like, all right, okay. But the way he was going about it, the fact that he beat everyone else there, clearly shares the Fenrisian spirit. So you challenge the stranger to a drinking contest next. And by the time the stranger finishes his 5th barrel of mead, you have drank all the other mead in the building.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Now, again, the stranger has failed the challenge, and he was beginning to be a bit enraged, right? So he stood and declared you nothing but a drunkard and a glutton, only able to stuff yourself and make hollow boasts. So, you lay down the final challenge. Now, you declare that you will defeat this man in combat, and as you do, the hall falls silent, and the people all back away in fear as you circle your table to get to the center of the room, drawing your greatsword.
Okay.
And once there, you turn back to this stranger, sword drawn, and beckon him to join you. So, the man stands, draws his hood back, and tosses off his robe. And as he does, the illusion that he had cast upon himself dispels, and you see standing before you the 14-foot-tall Emperor of Mankind in his golden power armor, wielding his power glaive.
Yeah.
Now, an incredible battle ensues, the two of you throwing everything you have at each other. But eventually, with one mighty blow from his glaive, the Emperor fells you. He knocks you unconscious, right?
Of course, yeah.
And when you wake up, about an hour later, I might add, when you wake up with your teeth broken and your mouth bleeding, you realize this man was not speaking hollow words. He is, in fact, the Emperor of Mankind. So you bend the knee and swear allegiance to serve the true Emperor of Mankind, your true father.
Yes.
Now, the Emperor obviously knew that you were of like a tribal world, so you were a bit behind the times compared to the rest of the Imperium. So, he took you from Fenris briefly to teach you the ways of the Imperium. So over a few short weeks, you learned of technology and the galaxy-spanning empire of mankind. And obviously, you learned it all really quick because, well...
I'm a fast learner.
You're a Primarch. This is what's going to happen, yeah.
It's my genetics.
Yeah. Now, in this few weeks where you were with the Emperor, you met his other son, the first son that was found. So you're only the second one that's been discovered. And this is Horus Lupercal.
Aha.
He immediately dislikes you.
Uh-huh.
So Horus is really like militaristic, organized, clear-cut, and you were, well, in his words, a savage.
Yes.
But you made it clear that you would like to be friends with him, if not brothers, and you tried to encourage him to have like sparring brawls with you, and he was less than excited about that concept. So there was a bit of animosity between you and Horus from day one, I'll be honest.
That's quite alright, though.
Kinda thought you were a barbarian. I'll be honest with you, when we get to Horus' story, it's not much better.
Yeah, I could imagine, but...
Yeah. So, once the Emperor deemed you ready, you were given a suit of blessed power armor, the legendary greatsword Mjolnir, sounds awfully similar to Mjolnir, but you were given the legendary greatsword Mjolnir, which was...
I'm sorry, how do you say the original one?
Mjolnir.
Is Mjolnir.
Is it?
I mean, it Nordics. It doesn't matter.
I mean, you'll probably say it the correct way because you speak fucking Danish, you nutcase.
Mjolnir. It's fine. Let's just continue.
Okay. Sorry. Jesus Christ.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Continue,
please.
I honestly, this is one of the reasons I'm excited for this episode, because I realized that a lot of the like weird terms they used will probably just sound like actual like Norse words, and I thought that it'd be interesting to have you comment on that.
I mean, I do know Mjolnir has one letter in it that you guys can't pronounce.
Yeah,
you heard about the Rød Flow before, right?
Yeah,
I've told Andy. Yes, exactly. So some stuff that you're going to be saying is a mispronunciation. I will just correct you if it gets to that.
Please do. Yes. I appreciate that.
Mjolnir is yeah.
Okay, good. You're gonna have to teach me this so that I can get this correct. Well, you know what? We're gonna have to do like a bonus episode that's just me trying to learn how to do Danish pronunciation.
I'm down.
Let's do it. That sounds like it'd be fun. So, by the way, that sword, the great sword, is actually crafted using kraken teeth.
Oh.
Yeah, giant sea monster teeth in a sword. How cool. And finally, you were introduced to your sons, the 6th Legion of Space Marines, known as the Rout.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they were also titled by a couple other things. Their official name was the Rout, that was the Legion's name, but they were also, like, known as the Emperor's Executioners and stuff like that. They had, like, extra titles that went with them. Okay. But you changed this name. Not to, like, forget their past. Like, the Dark Angels changed from the Angels of Death to the Dark Angels. Because the Dark Angels was, like, a reference to mythology within Caliban, right? And in a way, it kind of got rid of the title of the Angels of Death for a reason, because that's not who they were supposed to be anymore. It was supposed to be different, because they had been in a way that the Primarch didn't like before. In this case, that's not what it was. You didn't want them to forget about being the Rout, because they still use the title the Rout to this day. It's just not their official name. Their official name, unfortunately, is not the correct name. Because you renamed them to the Volca Fenrica, which in Low Gothic is the Wolves of Fenris.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, basically no one outside of Fenris speaks Fenrisian to be able to translate it, so it was mistranslated as the Space Wolves.
There's the bell that rings. The Space Wolves, let's go.
And that is why the Space Wolves is such a stupid name. Because it's not actually their name.
But it's funny, though.
It is. It's better when you see them riding their Thunder Wolves into battle, because then it's just wolves on wolves.
In space.
In space. Space wolves on space wolves. For the record, as the old saying goes, there are no wolves on Fenris.
Huh?
It's a thing within the universe. There's a saying which is, there are no wolves on Fenris. And there's an interesting point in, I believe it's the first book of the Heresy, which is focused around the Thousand Sons. It might be called A Thousand Sons, where obviously it's from Magnus and his guy's point of view, that they're traveling and they've just had like an envoy from the Space Wolves turn up because Leman has demanded Magnus come and fucking help them in the war they're waging, and he's not doing it. So they've got like a squad of Space Wolves with them, with actual wolves, and the planet they're on is like a desert hellscape. It's just hot as fuck. So all the Space Marines and everything are struggling with the heat, and the wolves are just padding along with them really happily, like no problem at all. And one of the guys is like one of the Thousand Sons is like, they don't even notice the heat, do they? And like, no, they notice it. They just adapt to it. And then Magnus goes into this big lecture because he says, he turns back to them because they keep talking about the wolves. He turns back to them and he's like, there are no wolves on Fenris. And the guy looks at the wolf and he's like, I'm looking at a wolf from Fenris. What are you trying to do to me? And then Magnus goes into this big kind of speech, I guess, a lecture. He likes teaching his sons. He goes into a big lecture about genetics and stuff. And basically, it seems as if they do not originally stem from wolves, or they were and they are not technically wolves anymore because they have been genetically altered through both evolution and like gene splicing from early human colonists. And that's why they're so ridiculously powerful and deadly and adaptable, that they can survive in the ice colds of Fenris and sweltering heats as well.
Yeah.
And then, like, after the whole explanation about all the genetics involved in it and everything like that, Magnus just comes back to him as like, so I tell you again, there are no wolves on Fenris. Okay. It's a whole thing. So basically, wolves on Fenris might not technically be wolves. They're just some weird mutant thing, apparently.
And in between.
Yes. They're halfway between wolf and crab. Have you heard that? That apparently all genetics eventually, like with enough evolution, just becomes crabs.
Yeah, I do think I've heard that, and that's like why we stem from the sea. Apparently, like
I just find that hilarious. And apparently, technologically, trains are the equivalent. Trains are the evolutionary, are the technological evolutionary equivalent to crabs in genetic evolutions. Apparently, everything just becomes trains if you keep building to it.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, moving on.
Back to the saga of Russ. So, from that point on, the Space Wolves began recruiting from Fenris as its homeworld, and you return there with your father together to design your fortress. Because how the hell do you build a fortress on a world like Fenris? That has to be, like a fixed point. And it's very difficult to do that on Fenris. But you would not simply build a fortress. You wanted to carve one.
Oh.
Yeah. You remember I said that Fenris is covered in gigantic mountains?
Not anymore.
No. You wanted to dig into the largest mountain and build a fortress inside it.
Of course.
And thus, the or the Fang, was built, which is the strongest fortress outside of Terra, anywhere in the galaxy. And it is the main fortress monastery of the Space Wolves. just carved out of a gigantic mountain.
Yeah, of course it's gonna be strong then, but I mean the insulation, isn't it gonna be cold? I mean, they don't care. No mind. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't care.
It is cold. I promise you, it is unreasonably cold, and none of them give a shit.
Yeah, because they all just adapt. They don't give a shit.
Yeah. So, like, the highest reaches of it are where, like, the leader, so Russ at this point, lives.
Yes.
And then you also have in the high reaches all the habitation for the Space Marines, and then the what are they called? The Apothecarian, which in this place is actually like a priest's area, the Flesh Crafters. So it's all laid out so that like the underlings don't go to the high reaches, which is for the Space Wolves.
Yeah.
And then in the lower areas, you have all the stuff for the, you know, the typical shit that goes on, the training cages and things like that, and all the habitation for like the serfs, the workers, the humans. And then, deep in the bowels of the mountain, in some long forgotten areas, you have the Hammerhold, which is the forges of the Space Wolves. And the reason it's called the Hammerhold is because it is just nothing but hammers beating constantly in there.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah. And deeper still, when you get to the long forgotten areas of it, you will eventually reach the crypts where the long dead live.
The what?
The long dead.
What's that?
The dreadnoughts.
Dreadnoughts?
Yeah. The dead space marines waiting to be awoken in their sarcophaguses to go to war in their giant suits of battle armor.
Yeah, some of them that like turn bad if they have a hard time waking them up and stuff. Oh, I remember,
Yeah. Because I told you about Murder Fang, the random ancient dreadnought they found in some long forgotten planet.
Yes.
I remember. So all the other dreadnoughts are kept in like the bowels of the Et, waiting to be awoken to go to war. Now, at this point, there are none of them because, well, your guys haven't started dying in battle yet. But, you know, when they do. So, now, this is the point where you took up your weapons and led your legion in the Great Crusade for the Emperor and went on to find your other brothers and start conquering planets.
Yes.
Now, a lot goes on in this point. As you know, there is the primary thing that goes on with Leman Russ in the Great Crusade and the Heresy would be the burning of Prospero, when you were maliciously sent to go kill your brother for his heresies. But we are going to cover that in a subsequent episode looking at the Legion itself. So for now, we're going to move on to the aftermath of the Heresy and cover where you ended up, I guess.
All right.
So, in the aftermath of the Heresy, you met up with Lionel Johnson and Corvus Corax in Corvus Corax's Raven Guard stronghold. Because, again, you were one of the ones that were separated from the Battle of Terra, or from the siege. You were not able to be there during the whole thing. So you met up with your brothers, and obviously Corvus Corax's legion was decimated, and he didn't want to go. He was very standoffish about going to Terra to try and help, claiming it was already lost. And the Lion was obviously like, the fuck are we staying here? We're going. We're going to help. And hearing that, you immediately went, you're damn right we are, and committed all your troops to go. Anyone that could still stand was going with you and the Lion to Terra to try and help.
Yeah.
And upon arriving at Terra, you found out that it was too late, as you know, and the situation and what had passed was explained to you by Constantine Valdor, leader of the Custodes. He suggested during this explanation that the Emperor may have planned for exactly what happened to happen all along. Naturally, this led to you growling at Valdor and screaming at him for suggesting such a ridiculous concept.
Yeah.
And yeah, that wasn't a great situation because it basically led to you almost kicking the leader of the Custodes' ass. But you move on, you head back to Fenris to rebuild your damaged legion and allow your sons to recover.
Yeah.
Now, time passed, a fair bit of time passed, hundreds of years even. In this time, your legion was out scouring the galaxy to, fight off the new Chaos Legions and push them back towards the Eye of Terror and just fighting where fighting needed to occur and stuff like that. Yeah. And as you may remember, in this time, Rabuti Gilliman was set as the leader of the Imperium, for democratic purposes, I guess. And in this time, he instated the Codex Astartes, which stated that all the legions had to separate into chapters of 1,000 max rather than into the legions, because no man should hold the power of a legion, which is the power to tear the galaxy apart, basically, as Horus once did. No one man should have that power. And you and your brother Rogal Dorn both argued against this vehemently. Ultimately, a single successor chapter was built from the Space Wolves. Your plan being to create what was called the Sons of Russ, a series of successor chapters which would circle the Eye of Terror, as their homeworlds would circle the Eye of Terror, creating a boundary to stop any Chaos troops ever leaving the Eye of Terror again. But when the first successor chapter, the Wolf Brothers, was created, they received half of all supplies, equipment, ships, priests, everything. And shortly into their existence, they began to mutate heavily as the gene seed had become unstable, and they soon died off. So it became apparent that successor chapters were not a viable option for the Space Wolves. And instead, for diplomatic purposes, more than anything else, if you ask the Space Wolves in a diplomatic format, they will act as if the 13 great companies of Space Wolves, which are their battle companies and how they're organized, each having their own kind of leader, like a general, they will act as if they are all separate companies under the Space Wolves. They are not. They are just the battle groups that the Space Wolves are split up into for, combat purposes. But they'll act as if they are chapters of their own and they're not a real legion. Nothing has changed. They are still a legion. They're still the original companies as well. But it keeps people quiet for 5 minutes if you're like, no, there's 13 chapters. Shh. Shh. Don't talk about it. For the record, the 13 great companies, for the longest time, there were only 12. The 13th is considered the lost great company because they were lost during the burning of Prospero, never to return, with no sign of them. Randomly, one person would just turn up one day, all confused and shit, but it was very, very sparse that any of them would return, and it was very rare that they would return. So every few hundred or 1,000 years, one guy from that company would turn up confused, and you'd be like, "Where did you come from?" And he'd be like, "No idea." All right. In current day, the 13th Great Company has been recovered, so they are back to a fuller strength. 13th Great Company was actually stuck in like a pocket dimension with a bunch of people on Prospero fighting for the past 11,000 years. Just constantly locked in combat with Thousand Sons, who were also there for that entire length of time. So that's fun. God. Yeah.
Yes. Define fun, right? That's
nice Monopoly. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So, in the year 211 of the 31st millennia, so the year 31,211, it's quite a while off from now.
Yeah, luckily.
Yeah. While holding a great feast, you announce to your sons, "Listen closely, brothers, for my life's breath is all but spent. There shall come a time far from now when our chapter itself is dying, even as I am dying now, and our foes shall gather to destroy us. Then, my children, I shall listen for your call in whatever realm of death holds me, and come I shall. No matter what the laws of life and death forbid, At the end, I will be there for the final battle, for the wolf time. By the way, the wolf time is like Ragnarok.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know. And with
Yeah.
that, you left, taking a small retinue of warriors with you, leaving behind only one of your personal band of warriors, Bjorn the Fell-Handed, to act as the Great Wolf of the Vilka Fenrika. So he was left in charge in your stead, and you headed off with your little squad of troops towards the Eye of Terror, never to be seen again. But tales were told. They say that you went looking for the Tree of Life to revive the Emperor. Others say that you went to recover your lost brother, Jagatai Khan, who disappeared into the Eye a long time ago.
Yeah.
But each year, Bjorn would tell the tale of your departure. Even now, 11 millennia later, Bjorn still lives as the oldest dreadnought of the Space Wolves, and the last living man to have walked alongside Leman Russ.
Oh,
If you see here, that is Bjorn the Fell-Handed.
Dreadnought. Holy shit.
For the record, this man kicked Magnus's ass.
That's a big feat, by the way.
It is. And luckily he has big feet, so it makes him stable.
Hey, but
And that is the story of Leman Russ.
Oh, I
What
like that
say
one,
you,
know?
Mez?
I mean, honestly, I really like the insights to all the Primarchs we're going to be doing in this season, giving them literally the whole backstory from child's birth. Like, you always start the episodes out by saying, because obviously Ryan tries to interpret it as I am the spaceman, the Primarch.
Yeah.
So it always starts off by saying I am a baby. I like it. We start from ground zero and
That's
then work
it.
our way up. And honestly, it's fun. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it, especially this one because I could resonate with it because I'm not even gonna lie. It's like, the Norse mythology and being Danish myself. I have roots from that part as well, but
Yeah.
I also have roots from Lebanon or all that kind of jazz. So I have not a traditional Scandinavian or Nordic name. And my last name means lone wolf. It's like I can resonate with Leman Russ, It's
Oh, hell yeah.
my brother, It's like
To be fair, he is a truly great character. Like, I love the Space Wolves novels that are going on as well. Like, even the current day ones. They are just incredible. Honestly, it's just the way their people do things is so cool.
Yo, wait, where did I actually put him in the tier list? I can't remember. I think it was A or B tier, right?
So, as we can see, it looks like you put Leman as the second lowest in A tier. Now, would you like to change that now that you know more about the character?
Wait, it is quite small. I can't see. Wait, who is the top one in A tier?
So it's Horus, Gilliman, Fulgrim, Leman, and then the Lion.
Yes, I would like him to move up.
Okay. I bet. Do you want him above Gilliman?
Yes. Reboot Gilliman, get down.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. That's fair. I'm into this. I like this setup. Same bad.
So it goes in A tier. It goes Horus, and it goes. Wait, who's the second one?
Horus, Leman, Gilliman, Fulgrim, Lion.
Yeah.
That seems like a fair call.
Yeah, it does. I like that.
Yeah. All right. But I think that's all we have to cover today about Leman Russ.
Oh, alrighty then.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Do you want me to round off the episode, Ryan?
Actually, there is one thing that I remember I'm supposed to mention. My girlfriend reminded me that I should mention this before before the event. I am going to be attending Warhammer Fest in Manchester at the end of the month. So, I mean, by the time this episode goes up, it'll probably be 2-3 weeks off by then. So yeah, just to let people know, I will be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to come and say hi if you're going to be there.
That would actually be amazing, honestly.
It'd be really cool. If I beat 80 fans, we're getting pictures.
Exactly. Honestly, if just one guy or girl shows up, it would be amazing. And I'm gonna regret so hard that I'm not there.
We have to make it really cool and make it seem like it was amazing, so that MEZ turns up next year.
Yes. I mean, if this podcast takes off, it would be nice. Also, the potential is there, I think.
I think so. Well, unfortunately, those laying down the lore bastards are getting into the 40k game, so we're going to have to start doing Warhammer Fantasy stuff just to mess with them. Or we could go the other way, and we can start doing a second podcast about Age of Sigmar and get there before them.
That's fine, it's fine. We have a virtual studio, Ryan.
Exactly. Who else has a virtual studio?
We can't be beat.
We got the spinny spaceship that goes up by above me once in a while, and I like that one. They don't have that. That wasn't it. You'll see it. It'll turn up.
It's coming by every 3 minutes. It's fine. But yeah, I do think that is what we have from this episode, right?
Yes, I think so. I think that's us.
All right, let me round it up then. So,
on you go.
Thank you guys for listening and watching to this episode of Iterators of the Imperium podcast. It's been me, MEZ, and Ryan, and we will see you in the next one. Take care and peace.
Bye.